Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taormina.
Welcome to OAA Now, and what is to be a shockingly snowy March, late March, early April. Anyway, I'm Sammy Taormina, blogger of the Dragon's Den, blogger of Inside the OAA, one of the hosts between Taorminas on ON TV, and also we'd like to welcome our friends from Oxford Community Television, who is broadcasting as we speak. So we got three interesting debate topics. We're going to talk Clarkson basketball, the impact of the Thomas sisters moving to Nevada from leaving Birmingham area, and what does that do with the OAA, and also the Noah Harris situation. Of course, Noah Harris is going to be leaving Lake Orion to go to Oxford to play his senior season as a Wildcat. We'll talk about that and what impacts does that have if Lake Orion and Oxford are in the same division. So let's go first with the Clarkson basketball recap. Of course, they finished the year at 23-1. Of course, losing on a buzzer beater to University of Detroit Jesuit. Of course, the winning layup by Kenneth Winston on a defensive breakdown by Clarkson with about 1 second remaining in the game. When I look at that match, when I look at it here, you got to give Clarkson's Andrew Myers a lot of credit, especially because he kept Clarkson in that game. Of course, Kenneth Winston was having a very good game there. You got to look at what happened in that game. I mean, like, UD Jesuit, I personally thought was controlling most of that game. They were up a couple times. Clarkson had to make some rallies. When you look at that game, more specifically, in that game, I thought the University of Detroit Jesuit did a very good job shaking out Foster Loyer. Loyer had 10 points, just 10 points, and it was stunning, to say the least. I mean, I know they have a very good freshman. The University of Detroit Jesuits got a very good freshman defender. I mean, and this was like a statement game, I guess, for him. I think it's Gary Scott, I guess it's his name. So I guess, Pat Donald said he has a very good freshman player and a defensive stopper. And he kind of limited Foster Loyer to about 10 points. And that's not an easy thing to do, especially when you look at how he's been doing this whole tournament and this whole season. He's averaged about over 20 points a game the last 5-6 games, especially to close out the year. He's had a heck of a year. He, of course, everybody knows about that 35-point game he had against Macomb, Dakota. When you look at what happened there, in that game, I thought personally, Clarkson, I thought they held their own against the two 6'11" Nigerians, Ike Ekebuden and Greg Abolin. I think it's Ike Igubu. I think that's the name. The two Nigerians, I think, were probably the biggest storylines. I know in a bad part of sportsmanship, I know they were called out the other day by a Clarkson fan, and of course Clarkson had to apologize for to the two Nigerian players. But here's the thing. I mean, these two Nigerians were basically, I thought, the story of attention. When you look at last summer, what they had to go through with the Billy Thomas situation, I personally thought, I just could not believe they fought Thomas. Thomas's move to move not only his son and his two Nigerians who he brought into the United States to West Bloomfield. And to see where they're at right now, of course, they're a very young team, University of Detroit Jesuit. They could do some damage next year. It would not surprise me if they would be the favorite to win the state title because of who they got coming back. They lose a couple, but most of their kids are very young. Of course, Kenneth Winston. Of course, he could be in the running for the state of for Mr. Basketball, and to me, that's stunning. And another guy I think is possible in that running is Foster Loyer. I think Foster Loyer could be in that running, but I also think Billy Thomas Jr. could be in that running. over at North Farmington because, he's going to return. He's got a lot of he's going to have a lot to prove, especially with what happened this year over at North Farmington. I mean, when you look at that award, I mean, this year the award went to Deontay Davis of Muskegon. Of course, look what happened to Muskegon. They end up getting whooped by Lansing Eastern. Of course, Lansing Eastern's a very good team. Of course, this is a team I think personally. I got to figure out. No, Lansing Ever, correction. My bad. Apologies here. Apologies to the city of Lansing. Lansing Everett was very good. I mean, they had a good team this year. They had a very good team. I was shocked that they beat Muskegon like that. I mean, it was shocking, to say the least. To look at that game and to look at what happened into that game was unbelievable. The way they destroyed Muskegon the way they did. And Davis now going to go to Michigan State. You know what I mean? Michigan State's a Final Four team, for goodness sakes. I mean, that's what makes it more interesting, I think, to keep the local kids coming to a place like Michigan State. So when you look at that situation, it didn't surprise me that Tom Izzo was at Callahan Hall on Tuesday night between Clarkston and University of Detroit Jesuit. It would not surprise me if Winston, the two Nigerians, and Foster Lawyer, it would not surprise me if they all are at Michigan State by next few years. It would not surprise me if those four are going to be Spartans, because when I look at that team, when I look at Michigan State, Michigan State right now I think is the best of the when it comes to developing local talent, to developing good prospects. In the nature of college basketball, you look at Michigan State. I mean, how they can get a local kid. Let's look at them in football. Of course, Mark D'Antonio. He the last 3 years has had top 5 teams in the country. I mean, he's had football teams. The last 2, have had both his teams have been top 5 in the country. He brings a kid like Cole Chewins. Of course, Cole Chewins played football and basketball at Clarkston. He's gonna make I think he gray shirted Chewins, so he'll have another year of eligibility. So when I look at what Michigan State's done, they develop their kids. They have, of course, they've done this not only in football but also men's basketball. And you look at the reaping of the rewards. You look at teams that have one and done players. You look at teams that have one and done players. I'm going to use James Young of Troy / Rochester, for example. Of course, James Young, he was a kid that, he had a lot of talent in high school. I didn't like the situation, what happened between Troy and Rochester. Now, what happened there? But you look at, he spent 1 year in the end. He spent 1 year at Kentucky. Of course, Kentucky went to the national championship game that year and lost. But you look at, if he were to stay at least maybe two more years, I think he would be a dominant basketball player. What is he now in college? What is he now in the NBA? An average player. I just think if you develop your kids personally, on a personal standpoint, they're going to be good basketball players. And I just think right now with what these kids are doing or are going through right now, you cannot. I mean, I don't like the one and done rule. I really don't, because you look at these players, what's the point of them going to college if you're going to have them for 1 year and that's it? I didn't like what Rick Pitino said. Of course, he coached at Louisville. He coached at Kentucky. I have not liked what John Calipari said. I don't think he's a good coach. I don't think John Calipari is a good coach. I really don't. Mike Krzyzewski over at Duke, he's a good coach. But John Calipari is not a good coach at all, and you could just see it in his interviews. You could see it in his body language. During the games, he cannot coach. explain me. It would not surprise me in the next 5, 6 years there would be an investigation over Kentucky. It would not surprise me because how in the world are you getting 3 7-footers to play for your program and and to develop that team? Kentucky. Now a lot of people say I'm jealous. I'm not. I just think Wisconsin will beat them because Wisconsin has developed its players. This is why I just think in the college level, you need to develop your players. And teams like Wisconsin and Michigan State have done that, whereas Kentucky and Duke has relied on the one and done program. Look at how many Duke look at Duke this year. Of course, 3 of those 5 are one and done players. They're like to be one and done players. And that's not right. I cannot stand that rule. I cannot stand one and done players. If you don't want to play college basketball, you go to Europe. Go to Europe. Go to Europe for all I care. But it ruins the beauty of March Madness. It ruins the beauty, and these players have got to get an education. These players have got to get an education because what would happen if you don't have a good NBA career? What would happen if your NBA career is ruined? What would happen? It's not gonna be right. It's not gonna be good when you look at the situation. I just think personally, when you look at the situation, it's a bad situation, going worse. With the one and done rule. That's just my opinion there. But anyway, back to Clarkson. Of course, when you look at the Wolves, yes, they lose Andrew Myers. They lose Merritt Canada. They lose Jonah Newblatt. They lose Cole Chewins. They lose a lot. But when you look at the talent, I know Scott Bernstein of the Oakland Press wrote in his blog about how Clarkson, they're still going to be good. When I know they got Lawyer and Throgmorton come back. Taven Throgmorton. I think Throgmorton right now, he's an okay player. He's not a great player. He can be taught. He can be developed. But I just think personally, Lawyer is going to probably have to do a lot more than he did this year. I think the reason why Lawyer was good this year, one of the reasons was because he benefited. It's a very similar story to Mackenzie Harbord at Seaholm. Very similar. Harbord had a senior lane team around her, that made her a focal point, and then when she came her sophomore year, she became the focal point, and it put a lot more pressure on her to do a lot. She had really good games against against some very small teams, small school teams like Royal Oak Shrine. She went off for 40. She had 29 against Lake Orion, but when you're the focal point, you're gonna get the most attention. And I think this is what's going to happen with Lawyer is he's going to get a lot of the attention. He'll probably say, bring it, but everybody's going to focus on him. I think next year, personally, the league's going to be a little weaker when you look at it. Knowing what I've been hearing, you're still going to have North Front, still going to be a good team in that division. Southfield will be down a little bit. They'll be okay. Lathrop will be all right. But when you look at the situation, I think Clarkson is in a good spot right now. I really do. I think Clarkson, with all the – and also, I just forgot to mention Rochester Adams. Adams is going to be solid. They're going to be senior lane team. But I look at it next year for Clarkson. I think they're going to be in a solid position. When you look at the Wolves, building that team, Clarkson should be solid, even though their JV was not as good as you'd think. The freshman was all right, but I think personally with Clarkson is when you look at the Wolves next year, it would not surprise me if Clarkson makes another run for Coach Dan Fife. And, but I don't know how the districts will come out once they're released in June. So, like I said, we'll see what happens heading into the year. Heading into next year, of course, Clarkson's got a lot of potential coming in. They got a lot of potential next year to be good. I just don't think they're going to be as good. But like I said, I don't think they're going to be as good as they were this season. So Clarkson next year be all right heading into next year. So we'll see what happens. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Noah Harris situation. Of course, Harris leaving Lake Orion to go to Oxford next year. We'll talk about that next here on OAA Now. Welcome back to OAA Now. I'm Sammy Taormina, blogger of the Dragon's Den, blogger of Inside the OAA, and one of the hosts of Between Taorminas on O1 TV. We're going to talk about an interesting situation development that came up this last week. Of course, I mentioned it on my Twitter post here about Noah Harris. Of course, Noah Harris played shooting guard at Lake Orion. Of course, he is going to transfer over to Oxford for a senior season. I think he's probably going to sit out the year a little bit until Martin Luther King Day for next year. But let's look at the situation here, what it's going to give for both sides. For Oxford, of course, it's going to give them a very good a good shooter. You know, he's a straight line shooter. He'll defend. He'll but he'll give him that top guard. You know what I mean? Like, especially from a shooting guards type of situation. He's looking like he's going to replace Mason Virus, who played shooting guard over at Oxford this year. But when you look at Oxford's situation, of course, they lose three good players. They lose Jamal Thomas, who's going to go out to Chicago. He was suspended last year. He suspended half of the year. Expected to leave. So he's out of the picture. And then you lose Delvino Alexander. Of course, he was a guy that ended up going. He's gone to graduation. He was a very good player for them. And then you lose Connor Elzerman, who was a straight, deadly 3-point shooter. He developed his game he was a complete player over there at Oxford, Step and Henning. So I think for Oxford, it's a huge upgrade for them getting Noah Harris. Of course, we don't know the details of the situation with Harris. I've been hearing a lot of stories about it. But once found out about Harris going over there, it was a shock for me personally. It's a disappointment, see him leave Lake Orion to go to Oxford. When you look at and it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt Lake Orion, but I think it's a huge gain for Oxford, gaining a guy like Noah Harris. Now, I asked the question, when Oxford and Lake Orion, let's go to Lake Orion's standpoint here with losing Noah Harris. For the Dragons, yes, they lose a shooting guard like Harris, but you got a couple guys in that JV that can replace a Harris type player. You got the emergence of Chris Dudek, he was a streaky shooter. You got a couple players from JV coming up who are very talented players. And then you got, the only issue that I have at Lake Orion is they don't have a true deep. You have a defensive stopper, yes. He doesn't play a lot. But I think personally, the problem I see for Lake Orion is going to be the bigs, and it's going to be that defensive stopper, especially at that 3 guard. So what happens with Lake Orion is, I think personally that it'll be an interesting situation with the Dragons. They got some good guards. They got some good. I mean, they're gonna have some talent coming up, especially, but when you lose a guy like Noah Harris, it'll hurt. It'll hurt in a sense. But also it creates a little bit more spice into a rivalry that's already been spiced. Especially in boys basketball, of course. 2 years, of course, Lake Orion and Oxford, they always play every year, but could it be possible that both Lake Orion and Oxford could be in the same division? Is it possible? I mean, there's been rumblings. There's been possible rumblings that the Blue could feature both the Dragons and the Wildcats in the same division. So that means instead of them playing once, they'd be playing them twice. So I think it'd be a very interesting situation if Lake Orion and Oxford were to play each other and I think it would be it'd be good for the area, for Northeast Oakland County, if Lake Orion and Oxford were to play each other twice on a consistent basis. So when you look at what Harris, I mean the Harris departure, I don't know if it hurts Lake Orion that much, be honest with you, but when you look at Oxford, that's a huge coup for Oxford getting a guy like Harris. He's got it. But when you look at it here, he's had a lot of success with his game. He has a great outside shot, shoots threes very well. With him, you look at what and then of course especially with what Oxford loses, I think he's gonna give them some help there, especially when you look at the situation over there. Oxford's not. They're not going to be as strong up front. I mean, that's a concern right there. If you're Stepan Henning, they're not going to be as strong up front. But I think Harris will give you that playmaking ability. He can create his own shot. He can create his own shot, but also, you got to have a very good point guard to do that. And I think Oxford's got a good guard. He got a very good guard. In doing that. So when I look at the Harris situation, it's going to add spice to a already tense rivalry heading into that one. But like I said, my best of luck to Noah Harris going over to Oxford. Hope he does great things there. But for Lake Orion standpoint, I think it'd be an interesting loss, but we'll see what happens there. It just puts a lot more pressure on them. And what if these two teams play each other, like I said, and it's possible, because there have been rumors going around at the league meetings, of course, the rumblings. There have been rumors going around, of course, these are rumors, so that Lake Orion and Oxford could be in the same division, like in the OAA Blue, along with Rochester, Stony Creek, Seaholm, and Farmington. So I think it would be an interesting concept, especially I think it'd be more if for a Lake Orion, Oxford, Rochester, Stony Creek standpoint, it makes sense to travel. It's close, especially when you play each other, and then Seaholm's not a far trip as well. But Farmington's gonna have to be the ones doing a lot of the travel, and and it's unfortunate for them that they're gonna be doing a lot of travel up north to North Oakland County. So. Like I said, I wish Harris the best of luck when up at Oxford. So we'll see what happens, especially next year. Other news around the area, of course, baseball, softball, soccer. Soccer's just started recently. You look at soccer, of course, also lacrosse has been starting as well. So, in girls soccer, of course, I've been impressed with there's been a lot going around, especially with Rochester. Of course, they had some nice wins the other day. Adams, same thing. Of course, I'm recapping. Of course, Lake Orion's. Soccer. It's early in the process. So, like I said before, it is early. In there, you look at a team like Stony Creek, who they got some solid players. Of course, Rochester got some solid players. Adams has got some solid players, but I think the dark horse could be. I think Lake Orion's a dark horse personally. When you look at it, I think Hazel Park is a dark horse. It's another dark horse in the league. When you look at Hazel Park, they had a really good run last year in soccer, and then you look at, with them. So I expect a lot coming out of the girls soccer format coming up later in the year. So when you look at other sports around the area, of course, football's going to start up soon. Of course, you got fall. So when you look at that matchup, when you look at early thoughts for football, of course, I wrote my top 10 on the Inside the OAA blog. A lot of interesting thoughts came to me when I look at that. I look at what the team's going to have early on and what the team, we don't know the transfer situation yet, of course. We all knew about what happened at West Bloomfield when they got all those when they got Eddie Curry, of course, to go over there. To go over there, it made West Bloomfield a very good team along with Tristan Jackson, Michael King. So it was a good situation for West Bloomfield, but my early indication, I think Harrison looks like the early odds-on favorite because when you look at the Hawks who they have back, Javon Shaw and Kai Kareem, of course, Kareem is a Division I prospect, of course, I think personally, but also Javon Shaw, he had an ankle injury that cost him the playoffs, but Harrison managed to survive in his absence. Of course, they went to state semifinals a year ago. They ended up losing to Muskegon Mona Shores in that one. It was a close game. That was a game Harrison should have won that game, but you got to give Muskegon Mona Shores that much. You got to give them credit for winning that game. Fortunately, then they lost in the state finals to Birmingham Brother Rice. So it is what it is there. My number 2 team, of course, watch out for Adams because the Highlanders are going to be a very good team. Of course, they returned Ryan Wood, quarterback, who was a very Kyle Wood, quarterback who was a very good athlete. He benefits from running that veer option. They got some other solid players, of course, in that lineup. Adams, I expect to be a very good team heading into the year early on there. My third-ranked team is Clarkson because when you look at the Wolves, they lost a lot. Even though they're the 2-time defending state champions, they're going to get tested week 1, and they're going to rely against Macomb, Dakota. They're going to rely a lot on Nolan Erickson. When you look at the Wolves, Nolan Erickson is going to have to carry Clarkson this year for this upcoming fall. And the question's going to be, can Clarkston, get back to state championship level that they have been so accustomed to? You lose the quarterback like DJ Zazula. You lose your heart and soul in America, Canada. You lose Chewins. You lose a lot of talent. You lose Centris Williams. You lose a lot on that team that gave you so much, so much success. You know what I mean? And like what Clarkson had. Now, when I look at Clarkson, in their 2 state championship runs in football, I thought 2013 for them was way too easy. I thought the 13 run was too easy. And this year, I thought it was a little bit harder because when you look at that matchup with Clarkston, the Wolves really, I think the 14 run I think was a little bit more challenging for them. They had some tight games, of course. They're tight. I think their tightest game that year I think was the Lapeer game. When I thought Lapeer had a great shot knocking off Clarkson. I really did. But at the end of the day, it was Clarkson who won that game, and of course now they're the 2-time defending state champions. They're going to play Macomb, Dakota, which is going to be over at their place. It's going to be an absolute bloodbath. I just think Dakota's going to win that game. Sorry, my viewers from Clarkson. I just think in the end of the day, I just think it's going to be too much Macomb, Dakota over Clarkson early on. So my third-ranked team, of course, I ranked was man, I don't have my things here with me, but my third-ranked team for sure, I think personally would be I would rank Oak Park right now. Right now is my third best team. Take that back. Southfield's my third best team. Sorry, no, fourth best team. Sorry. Man, my brain's been going in and out because of the snow out here. My fourth best team is Southfield. When you look at the Blue Jays, Matt Falconback, I think is gonna be a huge plus. Tough game week 1 with Detroit Cast Tech. It's not going to be an easy game right there when you look at that situation, for them. But I expect Matt Falcon to have a big year, do some things well. Like I said, we'll see what happens with them. Southfield this year, they lost a lot, but they had a really good run in the state semifinals last year. Had an incredible run, but in the end of the day, they had that big, huge win over Detroit Martin Luther King in the playoffs. So, like I said, we'll see what happens with Southfield. This year. Of course, the Blue Jays expecting to do a lot this year. And then the fourth best team here is the fifth best team is Oak Park. When you look at the Knights, they did lose a lot. I mean, like, they lose John Kelly. They lose a lot of other talented players. They have a tough week 1 matchup over at Grand Valley State against Zeeland West. When you look at the Knights, Oak Park's a team. They got a lot of questions. They got a tough schedule coming up, and that's something what Coach Greg Carter likes. Is he likes to play that tough schedule early on. So with the Knights, it's going to be an interesting aspect of who they got coming back. But like I said, we'll see what happens with the Knights. My number 6 ranked team is West Bloomfield, because when you look at the Lakers, you look at Tristan Jackson. Of course, he's coming back. Should be ready to go. He's going to be a good player. But the key is he does not have the team like he had last year. Of course, that team made an incredible run in the playoffs, lost for Walled Lake Central. It would not surprise me if West Bloomfield is a playoff team. But I think they're going to be a little bit different than they were last year. So West Bloomfield, my number 6 ranked team early, my way too early football season rankings. 7 is Orion, of course. The Dragons missed the playoffs last year. They got a lot to prove. They got a lot coming back. This is a team that's got to improve defensively if this team wants to do anything. And they also got to develop a pass game, because this team relied a lot last year on the run, and you can't do that in this league. You cannot. Not in this league. Number 8 I got is my 8 ranked team I got is Avondale. Of course, Avondale's got a lot coming back. This was a team that's got a lot to prove. Of course, they did lose some key pieces. I think Avondale's going to do some damage next year for sure. I expect them and Groves to battle it out for the blue title. Of course, Groves is my number 9 ranked team. Groves is a very unique team here. They got a lot back. They got a lot that they're going to rely on. When you look at Groves, this could be a good team. This could be a good team to watch, especially with them and Avondale possibly battling for the blue title. And my number 10 team, of course, is Oxford. Oxford's always tough. You know what I mean? They like to pound the rock, even though they lose a quarterback like Glacier Wallington, who was a very good player for them. He was a phenomenal quarterback and strong and a free safety for them. He could play virtually anywhere, and he's at a good school right now. So Oxford's my number 10 team heading into the way too early football rankings. So you can take a look at my rankings at the inside the OAA on my blog. So you could take a look at that. And alrighty, now all right, everybody. When we come back, we're going to talk about girls basketball and the impact of Bailey Thomas, the Thomas sisters, leaving Birmingham Marion to go to Nevada. You're on OAA Now. Welcome back to OAA Now. I'm Sammy Taormina, blogger of the Dragon's Den, one of the hosts between Taormina on TV and blogger of Inside the OAA. Also, we look at the situation, of course. Let's go from boys basketball. We talked about the sports like girls soccer and football. But also, let's talk about girls basketball, which is going to be very unique. Of course, some major news coming out of Birmingham Marion. Of course, Birmingham Marion is now the two-time state champions in Class A for girls basketball. But they got a huge loss, of course. The dad, Derek Thomas, the assistant coach at Birmingham Marion, ended up getting a job at Nike in Las Vegas. So he's going to take his daughters, the Thomas sisters, to Bailey and Samantha to Nevada to play for another team who won a Class A state title in Casiso High School in Nevada. And what impact does that leave Birmingham Marion? And I'll tell you what, it's a huge loss for the Mustangs because they lose a lot of talent from that senior lane, that team that end up winning the state title. And I've really felt when Birmingham Marion went on that state title run, that they won. I thought Thomas was the assistant coach who knew everybody's weakness. He just found a way to know everybody's weakness, and I think he did that to fruition for Mary Cicerone for the last 2 years. The Thomas sisters were very good players. Of course, we know Bailey next year is going to be. She committed to go play at college ball at West Virginia. Samantha, of course, still undecided her college choice, but it would not surprise me if she goes D1 somewhere else. Somewhere. So when I look at the situation, what impact does this do? I think it's a huge impact for teams around the area, especially down south. I think the biggest winner out of this is Southfield Lathrop, because when you look at the two games, the Chargers lost to the Mustangs. Both Thomas sisters have had to go off, and also they don't have Jada Robinson anymore. So that's a huge loss right there. So I think the big winner is Southfield Lathrop, especially who they got coming back. I think Lathrop next year Lathrop and Detroit Martin Luther King look to me like next year they are the teams that could threaten Birmingham Marion's reign as state champions. So when you look at is there a team in the district I think that could, if the districts were to stay the same, is there a team that I think could threaten Birmingham Marion in the districts? And I think that answer is easy. Yes, there is. Because you look at the teams next year, who I think are going to be solid. I think Harrison, even though they don't have no Kyler Rowland, they still have Kristen Nelson and Amber Steffens. Those two girls, they're going to have a lot to prove, especially Steffens, because she missed the year with an ankle injury. And that was very tough for Coach Tim McLash. And you bring that skill of hardworking girls back from a team that was just completely decimated by injury. Players play well for coaches they like. And Tim McLash is a very likable person. I know him based on personal experience. He's a good man. Here's a guy. Here's a team I think that can give Birmingham Marion problems, because I think Harrison, even though they don't have the athletic type of callus as a Birmingham Marion. Of course, Birmingham Marion likes to go out and recruit people, so especially in that Bloomfield Hills area. So that could be a little bit of an impact at West Bloomfield. But you look at Harrison. I think Harrison, with the play of Nelson, the play of Steffens, is going to be a huge threat to the Mustangs, because when you look at the Mustang situation, of course, they're going to be young. They're going to be very, very young, and it's going to be. I think it's going to be a tough scenario. I think to see where Birmingham Marion goes, to deal with them. And then, of course, there's another team I think I can give them problems, and that's Bloomfield Hills, to say the least. Now, a lot of people are like, why? You look at Bloomfield Hills next year. You got Amani Wright coming up from JV. Very good player. She can shoot the three. She can penetrate. I think she has the capabilities to be the next great player over at Bloomfield Hills. And then you got Kathleen Prinna, who's a shooting type of guard. I think she benefits from being the shooting guard, being the off guard, instead of being the focal point. And then you have Victory Franklin, of course. She's a small forward. She's a power forward. Very athletic, very lengthy type of player. I think that's going to probably give Birmingham Marion some problems. And then you got the big girl, Amanda Sape. Now, with Sape, of course, she's playing AU ball at going to be playing AU ball. I know the team personally, Michigan. I think it's Michigan Storm. That's it. Yep. So Sape, with Sape, it's like you look at Amanda Sape, you compare her to Shaquille O'Neal. You got to. I mean, body types like Shaq. She has a lot of traits of Shaq. The only difference is she's a better free throw shooter than Shaq. Other than that, she rebounds hard, she plays hard, but the only thing she does better than Shaq is shoot free throws better, But she actually has a lot of them. But, she's only a sophomore, you know what I mean? She's got a lot to her game, And then you got Becca Hancock on the bench, I think. It wouldn't surprise me if she starts. If Jeff Rubin decides to go to a 3-guard offense, it would not surprise me if he goes to a 3-guard offense. So, and, of course, their JV was not bad. They got some shooters. So, I think that's another team that could definitely give Birmingham Marion problems next year in the district. Other than that, I don't know much with North. I mean, I know North lost a lot with Megan Carter going. And then Birmingham Seaholm, that could be another team I think can give them problems, especially because you got Mackenzie Harbord and then Dana Horn. Harbord, of course, as I mentioned early in the opening subject with Clarkston, she can beat a team by herself. She did that against Royal Oak Shrine, almost tried to do that in the Lake Orion game, but last year. But when she's the focal point, people are going to try to shut her down, and that's a tough situation right there. And then you got Dana Holman, who had a really incredible rebounding performance a couple of years. I mean, last year against Farmington. I mean, I think she had at least 20 rebounds against Farmington, of course. That was a game which Seaholm won that one. But I was kind of surprised that, but I think that's another team. But the question is, their JV team was not very good. They didn't have a deep bench a year ago. I think personally, Seaholm's got a lot to prove, I think, to me before, besides, and besides Harbord and Horman, they got to find somebody to replace Molly Stollenberg. Stollenberg was supposed to be, Horman and Stollenberg were supposed to be that good 4-5 combo. Stollenberg's now not there anymore. She's in Illinois. I mean, it's tough. It's tough having to replace a girl like Stollenberg. It's going to be very, very tough. But I don't know if I see Seaholm doing that. I don't know. But it's going to be a tough call, I think, for January Haleski and coach over there to look at that situation and say, it's going to be hard. But I think there's 3 teams for sure that can get Birmingham Marion fits, and that is in districts. I know in regional for sure it's gonna be Lathrop. It'll be Sophia Lathrop for sure. But in districts, I can see Bloomfield Hills, Harrison, and maybe Seaholm. You know what I mean? That can give Birmingham Marion problems. Now, Birmingham Marion's not going to be the same team as they used to be. Of course, I don't know, how losing a coach like Derek Thomas is going to be. Because you could tell when he was there. I don't know if he was there for just his daughters. I don't know. And I think personally, when you look at the situation with Birmingham Marion, yes, they're good kids, but you look at the situation next year, it puts a lot more pressure now back on Mary Cicerone to carry this team again. They were ranked 8th nationally, and I don't know if the prestige with the Thomas sisters' departure is going to affect them nationally, because you look at a team like you look at a team. I think that there's going to be teams that are going to try to go get them next year. I look at a team like Farmington Hills Mercy. You know what I mean? Even though they lose their best player, I think they're going to get problems. I mean, in regionals, if they go north, if they go north next year, if they go north next year in the regional instead of south, like where Lathrop's at, there's some teams up north that I think can definitely beat them next year. I think a team like, I think when you look at teams up north that could definitely give Birmingham Marion fits, Stony Creek's one of them for sure. Even though the problem with the Cougars is they don't have a lot of depth, and when you look at a team like Stony Creek, they've done well with less, But then again, last year they had benefited a lot because they had a girl named Maria Zandy who was very, very good. Adams could be a team that could give them problems, because you look at even though they lose a girl like Amber Jameson, you still have Olivia Argross there. And then you have two very good guards in Ryan Owusu and Maggie Rogers. Maggie Rogers, to me, is probably the most underrated. She can play a 2 guard, but she can also play a 3. Here's why I think she can play a 3. It's because, she's got the length to play a 3. It's a matchup nightmare for teams. When you look at Adams, I just think Adams, they'll definitely, if Marion moves north, I think Adams, the team, will give them problems. Another team I think will give them problems. And this is going to be, a lot of people are going to ask me, it's a homer pick. It's going to be like, I'm going to say Lake Orion gives them problems. Here's why. When you look at the Dragons, this was a team that was not a consistent, they were not a consistent team, of course. Here's the thing I have with Orion, is this is a team, they win the games they're supposed to win. And then, of course, there are games that, that there were the Troy games I think were completely baffled. The Lapeer game was baffling as well. But I think Lake Orion's got a shot if they played Birmingham Marion, because you have Evan Wishmeyer, Lauren Thorne. If Delaney Hahn can get her, can become consistent, you know what I mean, then you're going to have a good basketball team. But I think Lake Orion's a team, I think that can definitely held its own against Birmingham Marion. I really do. I also look at a team like Clarkson who can, but they don't have that true star. They lose Davenport a year ago. They have Lujan back, Kayla Lujan back, and Molly Nicholson, the two Twin Towers. But we don't know where Coach Tim Wozniak's going to look at. But you've got some players coming back who are going to be good players. But I think their teams. And let's not forget the other team I forgot to mention. It's in the KLA. Team's name is Waterford Kettering. I think Waterford Kettering would love to get another crack at Birmingham Marion, especially what happened in that regional and that state quarterfinal. I think the captains have probably, out of everybody I mentioned, I think the captains have the best shot at taking down Birmingham Marion. I really do. When you look at what Scott Woodhall has done over there at Kettering, he's made them a well-oiled machine there. He's created an actual program over there at Kettering. Of course, he had a lot of good seniors a year ago who benefited from his system, but you lose a couple kids like that. I mean, like the Thames sisters, but you have an emerging sophomore coming up, and that's going to make things a lot more interesting over there at Kettering. I mean, I think personally, when you look at it, I think Waterford Kettering has the best chance, I think, if Birmingham Marion were to move north in June in the districts, to definitely beat Birmingham Marion. I mean, like, no disrespect the OAA teams. I think the best OAA team that can knock out Birmingham Marion right now right now would be Stony Creek. And that's saying a lot right now. It is. It truly is. But I think that Derek Thomas going to Nevada is going to impact this team. I really do. And you could tell. Even that state champs article I read, you know what I mean? You know, it's a tough situation, you know, when you have to move your kids out of the state that they love to go play somewhere else. You know, it's hard starting over. You know, it's going to be very hard starting over. Like I said, it's difficult, but also it's a new challenge, you know. It's a new challenge. It's a new day, you know. I mean, like, there have been possible rumblings, anyway, 2 division rumblings. Possible rumblings include Oxford looking like they're going to move up to the red. Of course, North Farmington, I think we're going the white, will help them out. Royal Oak possibly the other one. These are all just rumors. So I think personally, the coaches got the divisions right. Like I said, we'll see what happens there in that process. So I'll keep an eye on it for you guys and give you a report on that to my viewers, to our viewers here, both in the Orion, Oxford areas and wherever. So, like I said, I'm gonna sign off here. Coming up here, so keep an eye on the action, and let's hope the snow melts. I know it's supposed to be 70 degrees soon, and everybody's going on spring break. I mean, like, most kids are going to go on spring break. So, like I said, enjoy your spring breaks. When you look at it here, of course, opening day's coming up with the Tigers on the 6th, but, you know, I ask you guys for spring break, of course, everybody be careful. Be careful, you know what I mean? Like, and stay safe and stay warm, everybody. Once again, I'm Sammy Taormina. I'm signing off. Happy spring break to everybody who's going out on it. And for those who are not, keep on practicing your sports. Okay, I'm signing off. Good night, and God bless all.
OAA Now is produced at Orion Neighborhood Television, Lake Orion's community media outlet. To learn more about ONTV, visit our website at www.orionontv.org or call us at 248-393-1060.